Imagine your marriage healthy, thriving, and fun again. Welcome to the Coach Martez and Woodrina Show, the ultimate power couple helping you with understanding love, accepting truth, and changing perspective. Certified professional life and marriage coach Martez Layton and licensed therapist Woodrina Layton are here to help you step up your game when it comes to marriage, relationships, and so much more. With 30 years of marriage under their belt and a proven track record of mending broken bonds, you can rely on Coach Martez and Woodrina to empower you and your loved ones to have a strong connection for life. The Coach Martez and Woodrina Show starts now.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday to you. In this new month of March, Women's History Month. What an amazing time to be alive. What an amazing time to be in love. What an amazing time to just be in good health. Hopefully everyone is doing well. Hopefully your family is doing well. Again, I'm Coach Martez.
And I'm licensed therapist Woodrina Layton.
And you are listening to the Coach Martez and Woodrina Layton show here on Transformation Talk Radio, where we're talking about understanding love, accepting truth, and changing your perspective. Right. Stay with us for this next hour as we discuss how to protect your marriage from toxic in-laws. Let me say that again. From toxic in-laws. If you've never heard this term, we're going to talk about it. We're going to keep it transparent. We're going to keep it real, keep it light. You know, I got to keep everybody at least smiling. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully you're having a good day today. It's 74 degrees here in the ATL.
And as we do every week, we're just looking forward to having an enjoyable conversation around walking out the journey of love, life, and fulfilling purpose as we share with you practical tips, new insights, and perspectives that will help you to improve your relationships, communicate better, walk in forgiveness, and just simply love better. Mm-hmm. So before we get started on our topic for today, you know, we're going to share a little fun fact about ourselves.
Let's do it.
So, you know, the question I have for today is, if you could download a how-to book directly in your brain, what would it be? You know, what would it be for? And it makes me think about, you know, like the movie Matrix, because like we said, we're big movie buffs, and that's one of Martez's favorites.
Absolutely,
and, you know,
all of them.
Yeah, and how they're yeah.
That
last one. Yeah.
I know my son really liked it. He was like, Dad, you just don't understand it.
I mean, I get it when he explained it, but the first three is still.
Oh man, I love the first three.
And so basically, you know how you're watching the movie and it's like they'll just download something and it's like, oh, they know how to fly a plane.
Exactly.
So what would be that thing that you would download directly into your brain? You know, what would you like to learn, Martez?
Well, for me, the first thing when Woodrina asked me this question, the first thing that came to my head was, because I've been doing a few things on Robinhood and whatnot with stocks. Of course, I'm just learning a lot of this stuff. I said, no, what I would want to do, I would want to download just a really good understanding of the stock market, stocks, trading, and stuff like that. I said, that's what I want to do. I would just be like, boom, give me that download.
Yep.
So I'm ready to start doing some trading, that's what I said.
Right. Okay,
that was the first thing. Don't judge me. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Right, that's good. So yeah, that's good. That's really good. For me, I would want to download like different languages. I would want like Spanish, French, Mandarin. I would want I would want to be like one of those CIA agents that you see in the
movies. On Mission Impossible.
Right, on Mission Impossible. They just start speaking German. They speak whatever language, whatever country they're in, they're able to speak that language.
Like that last movie we just watched.
Yeah.
I forgot which one it was. And the person was like, oh yeah, I know this language. You're like, what? How you learn that?
Oh yeah, I can't remember, but I do remember that scene. Mm-hmm. But I know I would want to be able to speak every language. It's like, if someone's speaking a different language, I just understand what they're saying, and I'm like, oh, I know what they're saying, and I can communicate in that language.
I like that.
Yeah, I would really want to. That's what I would want to download, because you know, it's hard for me, I guess, since we did it older, to retain different languages, because I took 5 years of Spanish and I still speak Paquito.
Right. And my name is Manolito Martez Layton, just in case you didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So when I was in the Republic of Panama stationed over there in the Navy, they was like, Manolito. Growing up as a kid in Birmingham, Alabama, boy, I hated when the teachers is man. I'm sorry, man. Could you just call me Martez? You know what I'm saying? But anyway,
yeah,
I took Spanish too, but I mean, you know, I know a little bit. But that's something though, because the money I would make from the stocks trade, when we travel, you'll know how to speak the language.
Yes.
I like that. Right there. She didn't tell me that. I didn't know. She said, I got a surprise for you, what my download would be. So I didn't know. This was my first time hearing. But we're still in unity. I'm gonna be making money in the trade from my download, and you're gonna be speaking the different languages
when we travel. So I can make the deal.
I like that. I like that.
Just tell me what you want.
Well, no, we do the deals in the computer.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'm thinking about the movies. We watch a lot of movies. Okay, so let's get into this discussion on how to protect your marriage from toxic in-laws.
Wow.
You know, many people don't deal with this, but a lot of people do. So, you know, do you ever feel like you're constantly under assault from your in-laws? You know, like, for example, do they constantly criticize and belittle you? Does it seem as though they are always dependent on your spouse to meet their needs? You know, it's like, I'm married, you know, it could be a widow person, and it's like they feel like that your spouse is their partner. They treat them like that. And then you even have couples that are married but still feel a need to, you know, feel as though they rely on your spouse to meet their needs. Do they regularly make demeaning comments about your character, your talents, or criticize your parenting skills? And, you know, and if you're dealing, like I said, everybody doesn't deal with these challenges.
So true.
But for those that do, it can be emotionally draining because it causes turmoil, you know, in your marriage and discord between you and your spouse. So what we want to do is we just want to help you with some ways to protect your marriage and deal with toxic in-laws if this is a situation that you're in. And even if you're not, how to protect your marriage in the beginning to ensure that you don't deal with, that your boundaries are set and you don't deal with it.
Right. And always, like I say, you know, to everyone that's listening, you know, if you don't know our story, if this is your first time joining us, you know, one of the things, we've been married for over 30 years. I've been with my wife since I was 18 years old. I'm 51 years old now. But we're very transparent. Although we're professional at what we do, she's a licensed therapist. I'm a certified professional life and marriage coach. But it's one of those things that we always tell people, we talk about things also that we know. We talk about things we experience. So like I told Woodrina, you know, because we definitely talk to our clients about this that we work with, but we wanted to just share this with those that are listening. And so like I told her, I say, babe, this is something that's a really good topic, because in actuality, my mom was toxic. You know what I'm saying? But of course, when I was married, I didn't know what toxic mean. I didn't know none of these terms, but we're just really being transparent with things that we've learned. And of course, from doing this professionally, also helping people to understand how to avoid, so you don't end up on the other side of a happy marriage that really could have been in a really good place, but the in-laws really could have caused you the type of pain or the type of hurt that would have made you have to be like, I just can't take it and deal. But I just like to let everybody know that's listening, you know, we don't just talk about textbook or those things. These are things that we have experienced and we know about.
Yeah, this was a major challenge in our marriage. Really, really one of, I would say probably like one of the main reasons that we dealt with so many of our challenges for the first at the beginning. But honestly, I would say it took years for Martez to do what I say the first thing that has to be done to protect your marriage is to cut the umbilical cord and become one with your spouse. You know, it's really a lot of times we don't understand like what that means. You know, it's like when you get married, it's like you're one with your spouse. You become one with your spouse. Your devotion is to your spouse. You are a team. You should always have your spouse's back. Yes, you're going to respect your parents and you're going to still take care of your parents because that's what we're supposed to do. But basically we have to be clear with our in-law, with our parents, to let them know, this is my ride or die. This is my number one here. So I'm standing, and you have to communicate to them, I'm standing with them.
And that was a big challenge for me. Like I say, you know, Woodrina and I met at 18 years old. We got married at 20 years old. And for me, growing up in a single family home, and if I haven't said this, there were 3 pillars in my life. One was my mom, and the other 2 were both of my grandmothers. And so for me, it was really hard because my mom was single and was never married while I was growing up. I never saw marriage practice in front of me, and neither one of my pillars, which was both of my grandmothers, neither one of them were married. So I never really saw marriage practice in front of me. So for me, the number one woman in my life was my mom.
Yeah.
And then number two
was Woodrina.
Was Woodrina. It all
Oh, what
depends on
you say with your
it all
grandma?
depends,
You're right.
when we first got married, Granny could have been like
that
right there.
is true. That
You know
is
what I'm
true. I was number 3.
So
Yeah.
I was number 3. You know what I'm saying? So no, yeah, and when we first got married,
I probably was number 4.
No, I mean, well, you and my dear would have probably been right there. But Granny would have probably been just a little step above. But yeah, but I mean, but I didn't know no better.
Yeah.
And we know a lot of people don't, and that's why this is such a great topic. And actually, there's a book that talks about toxic in-laws. And I remember reading that book. It really helped to change our lives and really helped to change mine to get that knowledge. But it's one of those things, you don't see them as being toxic. That was nowhere in the world you could have told me my mom was toxic.
As much as, and then even when it got to the point later on in our marriage where when I began to speak out to him about it, he still couldn't, he couldn't see it.
And that's something that happened. So I just want to say this to anyone that's listening, that you may be going through some of this and it's like, oh man, I know what they're talking about. But it's one of those things, it doesn't, your spouse, whichever one this is, they really have no idea of what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? I remember Woodrina would just say, I feel this, I know this, because it was like invisible negative tension.
Yeah. And then also negative words. So like my next point is, don't allow your parents or
siblings.
Yep. Yeah. But in-laws could be siblings too. But today my topic was mainly like parents, but that's true. Siblings too. But I know.
Right.
I know.
That was from your personal experience.
No, but honestly, though, when I think about
sometimes a brother-in-law and sister-in-law could be the.
Oh no, I agree. But then when I'm talking to other people, parents, most of the time it's parents.
That is true.
So, but it can be siblings as well. But you can't allow them to talk negatively about your spouse in front of you. You have to cut it off. You have to stop it. You have to be sure to defend your spouse in front of them and speak positively. Speak positive things about your spouse, in your marriage, because that was one thing, so it wasn't all invisible energy. It's like words were being said about me negatively, not only to Martez, but to other people. And so, with Martez, he would see it as, oh, she just talking. That's just her, and so that's why a lot of times he's saying your spouse may not even realize what's going on. They like, that's just my mama, but really your mama wrong.
Right. And that's absolutely correct. And I want to talk about that when we come back. I know we got to get ready to take a break, but I want to talk about that, how, really defending your spouse when negative things are said openly in front of them, or even if it's not open, actually to you, to yourself. We're going to talk about that, because again, just keeping it real, keeping it transparent, keeping it 100. You're listening to the Coach Martez and Woodrina Layton show. We're getting ready to take our first break here, but when we come back from the break, we're going to still be talking about how to protect your marriage from toxic in-laws. Let's go.
Right, stay tuned. Get down. Welcome back to the Coach Martez and Woodrina Layton show. We are discussing how to protect your marriage from toxic in-laws. And before the break, we were discussing, making sure that you don't allow your parents to negatively, talk about your spouse in front of you, that you actually cut it off, stop it, you defend your spouse. And Coach Martez wanted to share something on that.
And so what, and one of the points I wanted to bring out is to make sure, because again, I always tell people, I grew up in the hood, in a city. We did a lot of joking, you know what I'm saying? And so what happens is that toxic in-law, which was my mom, to you, it could sound like sarcasm or joking, but to your spouse, it sounds like hurt and just like really offense. And that's what I'm saying. You may not really be aware of how much the person, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. You really have to understand and be willing to accept if your spouse is saying, well, no, that really hurt. Don't just, because I was really good at just saying, no, that, mama just joking with you. You know what I'm saying? You're just too sensitive. That's just the way we do. But in actuality, that really wasn't the way we do, because my mom really just had some control issues and things, and was just like, yeah, I don't really know you yet, and was really hurting Woodrina's feelings. But of course, when I was hearing it, it just sounded like she was just joking. She maybe just be being sarcastic, but that's what I'm saying. You really want to be careful, and you want to ask your spouse, honestly, I know we was laughing, I know we may have been joking, but was those things said, did it bother you? Did those things really come over to you as just really being and fun? Because that's what you really have to watch out for.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then it's all about how a person says things too. But yeah, that's true. You always want to check in with your spouse and you not say, oh, this is how it is. You do want to check in. And then also it's your job to manage the relationship between your parents. So then you can't just ignore the issues with your own parents. You can't ignore them and say, well, that's an issue between you and my mama, or you and my dad. You deal with that. It's like, no, don't expect your spouse to handle it. They're your parents.
That's
so
a big word.
you need to deal with that yourself.
I'm saying, because see, when you say that word manage, that's a big word, because of the fact that many people, when they fall in love with somebody and they get married, they've never managed emotionally dealing with their parents. And that's why we see a lot of times how this really becomes a challenge, and why we really want to have this conversation, because a lot of people, when they hear manage emotions, you've never had to do that before, because this is a whole new situation that you'll face. Your parents see somebody coming in and it's like they're taking you away, and then if they really feel like, I don't really know if I want you to go with them, then it's almost like not only you taking, it's like you stealing. It's like you taking something that don't belong to you. So then what happens is the in-laws actually become a little bit defensive and really trying to make sure it stops. And so that's why I say, that manage, you've never managed. So that is one of those things where you really want to you want to get some coaching around that. So when we're saying this, you want to see, how do I do this? And again, the book is a great book about toxic in-laws. We could get it on a break to show you. It's a great book to read, because you can't just go into it, and that could be a problem, because see, just like for you would have expected me to know how to stand up and put an end to it. But in actuality, I had zero experience in that in my life. And then how do you put an end to the person that has the most influence in your life, that has done everything for you? So it's like you're not even emotionally ready to handle that. That's why we're talking about it, because understand, if you answer yes to any of those questions, what we're saying to you, we're giving you knowledge, we're giving you understanding, but I can absolutely tell you, this is not something you want to do on your own.
You would need some coaching.
You need some coaching around this. Don't even, because honestly, if you're trying to do this with your in-laws, you could be stepping into a lion's den. And trust me, those lions, they bite real. You ain't ready for that. I'm gonna just say, you know what I'm saying?
No, for real though.
I'm just going back. When I think back to myself, I had no idea.
And so just imagine if you feel that way about your own parents. That's why I say you can. So a lot of times people say, well, that's an issue between you and my mama, you and my daddy. You need to go deal with that. And it's like, no, I don't know your parents like you do.
You
grew up with them. So you need to step to them and say, now I want to, let y'all know,
No, that's another great point, because again, we need to bring that back out again. When you married your spouse, you said, now we become one. Well, you can't become one, but then all of a sudden now something go wrong with your mom or your dad or your grandmama. You you got to deal with it. Hold on, how we gonna be one when it comes to talking about money and some other things? And then what else when what I'm talking about when we won. But then all of a sudden I say something about your mom and your grandmama, it's like, no, it's like, no, you gonna handle that. No, I ain't gonna start talking. I start talking. That's what you tell them, go talk to your grandmama about that. You want to talk about something.
So then you want to make sure that, like Ted said earlier, that you listen to your spouse's point of view and their feelings about, the family with an open mind. So just make sure you remember to just not automatically defend your family. You just remember, we're a team, we're one, I'm standing with you. So I'm going to listen to you, and if we need to get help
Yeah.
around it, we will. And then don't try to force the relationship with your spouse and your parents. If it's too hurtful for your spouse to be with them, then you just have to visit them alone.
Right.
You know, because sometimes
that's a whole nother stage to get to, babe. That's a whole nother stage.
But it's one of those things. If you're in this situation though, and
you just gotta get help.
And you're recognizing some of this, then yes, you do need to get some help. Because because I know I was at that point where I was like, you gotta just go by yourself, because I just can't.
But that's the final straw.
I can't just keep dealing with this.
Right, but that's the final straw. So hopefully, if you're listening to this, and any of those questions you answer yes to about do you deal with this or do you deal with that, then this is where we're saying to you, you need to request some coaching and some counseling around this area, because there are ways to try to prevent it, and then you would just want to try to see how to approach it, and has it gotten to one of those situations to where they're just not going to change. That's when you have to get into that last ultimatum of
I can't go.
I can't go
because I can't.
What it
I have
does
to protect myself, and I can't allow myself to keep being hurt.
That's the last step of having to do that, because then that even brings more stress in the relationship if the two of you haven't.
Well, if you don't agree on it. But if you all have actually talked and you understand and you realize that your parents are just not going to change, then it's like,
most people ain't gonna because it's like, this is my wife. Then just imagine you got kids. So now my kids are traveling, coming to do it. It's like most people, they need some help around that, because if the wheels are turned, I'm just thinking, oh yeah, in my mind, you just really don't want to be around my family. So that's what I'm saying. A person would need some help around.
Yeah, they would. But then at the same time, you're having that conversation, like what's going on. So when you're saying you're not going to be around my family, they understand why they're not going to be around the family, because of the hurt and the things that have happened. So basically it's one of those things.
No, I'm saying it ain't that easy to understand.
Because it's been so toxic. It's like you said, I understand that stages. So that'll be like that last stage.
Right.
But what I'm saying, when they get to that stage,
hey everybody,
when they get to that stage, they do understand.
I told you we'd be tricked.
Right. When they get to that stage, they will understand we've been dealing with this for years. There's no change happening. So we done been to the therapy session and they done told us, okay, then y'all gonna have to see about how this gonna work, because you gonna probably have to just go by yourself sometimes, because that person can't take being hurt.
But they didn't got counseling coaching. What I'm saying is, but see, we don't know people that are listening to this. That's why we're telling them, you definitely will want to request a session. I could tell you, don't do this on your own.
I agree.
Don't walk into that, because think about everybody, since we've been doing this professionally for 13 years, when this happens, they're talking to us.
That's so true.
Ain't nobody, we ain't telling nobody. I can tell you right now, do not have this conversation on your own. Don't even do that to yourself. You don't even know the questions to ask, how to react. You don't. And that's what I'm saying. With us, they're talking to us.
That's true.
And they've got to a point where it's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so if anybody is listening, these are things that we can tell you to bring into the knowledge of and try to keep it simple for you. But I can honestly tell you, if this is the case, you want to get some, you want to let your spouse know, I really do need somebody to talk to about this. And don't just continue to think it's okay, it's acceptable. It must just be me. It's not you. You know what I'm saying? It was never Woodrina. It was always me. Because again, we said toxic in-laws. We didn't say healthy, emotionally loving in-laws. So if they are toxic, there are things that they're doing that causes challenges and distractions and other things in your relationship. Now, I can tell you, they have no idea of what they're doing. They just look at it as this, that's my son, that's my daughter, or whatever. But I'm just saying, it's like, no, you need to get some help around talking. But of course, we want to just get some tips and some things on that. Yeah.
And so the next thing you want to do is you just want to make sure that you set clear boundaries with your parents.
Oh, definitely.
You do want to make sure that you communicate clear boundaries and you don't waver from them. So it's like you said, don't allow behaviors or habits to start that you don't want to live with for the length of your marriage. So it's like we said, about the talking about your spouse. You want to go ahead and just set those boundaries ahead of time, because you can't control what they say and do, but you can control know your response. So you want to just calmly and respectfully just let them know, like, we right now
you want to do it together,
right, we're good, we don't need your advice on this, we don't want the meddling, you just really want to just stand together and just set those clear boundaries and communicate them to your parents.
Right. And it's one of those things, again, when you're setting those boundaries, again, you and your spouse want to make sure that transparently you're in agreement.
Yeah.
Because one of the things you don't want to do, because I think we went through this, is like, we can set a boundary when I'm with Woodrina. Okay, babe, this is going to be a boundary. But then as soon as my mom crossed the boundary, I don't really say it in a real way of like, Mom, you wrong. Assertively, you wrong. Because really a part of me is like, yeah, I'm going to tell Woodrina what she wants to hear, what she needs to hear to just kind of keep moving. But then if my mom, and I'm only saying my mom because I didn't have a dad, for those, sometimes we've seen dad, it ain't just the mom.
It could be the dad.
It could be the dad that's the person. You know what I'm saying? If he has toxicity in him. But I'm just saying, it is one of those things. Be transparently truthful with those boundaries. Because if you don't agree, it's not going to work, because you're going to bend on it, and that's going to make your spouse more frustrated and really just feel like you're just really disrespecting and devaluing them.
Yep, that is so true. So so we're gonna just go and take another quick break.
I told Woodrina this was gonna be a real topic right here.
Yeah, we're gonna take another break, but when we come back, we're gonna continue this discussion on how to protect your marriage from toxic in-laws.
Let's go.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are back on the Coach Martez and Woodrina Layton show. We have been discussing how to protect your marriage and deal with toxic in-laws. But before we continue, I want to make sure that everyone knows how to connect with us. If you want to connect or work with Martez and I, you can visit our website at dreambuilderscoaching.net. On Facebook, we're Dream Builders Marriage Coaching and Counseling. Social media, Instagram is at Coach Martez at Woodrina L, and Twitter is at Coach Martez at Woodrina L. So let's get back into this discussion.
A good discussion.
Yes, it is. And before the break, we were talking about how you have to make sure you set clear boundaries with your parents and don't waver. And also, I wanted to just bring out, you want to make sure that, ahead of time, you and your spouse actually plan how you will spend your holidays and other occasions up front, because this can sometimes be a problem as well. It's like, how are we going to divide our time? So you want to make sure that you discuss that. And then you want to make sure that you communicate how comfortable you want to make sure you communicate the comfortability that you have in being transparent and just setting those boundaries with your parents, with your spouse. You all want, it's like Martez said earlier, you want to have the conversation first about, okay, this is what we need to talk. This is what you need to talk to your parents about, because this is really an issue, in our marriage. And so you all want to be comfortable with it first before you go to them, so that you can stand firm and be assertive when you're communicating. And just know they're not going to like it. Many times they're not going to like it. But you just have to realize, I'm not gonna waver. I'm still gonna stand firm. Because when the person who's the child of the parents who are, are toxic, starts communicating that, some animosity can develop, and it's like then they start really getting angry and, upset with you or your spouse. And, you just have to stand firm and just know it could happen.
Right. And then I just want to go back to make sure, because I know we keep saying toxic, and I'm not necessarily sure if we actually said earlier what that really looks like. I know we've been saying it, but just toxic.
With those questions in the beginning.
But I'm just saying, just in case somebody that came in now, but they didn't really hear, you'll have to go back to listen. But toxic just means, that's that negative energy. Things are said that are belittling. Things are done to really cause tension and cause other stress and those things in your relationship. That's what it means to be toxic. And we know everybody doesn't deal with toxic in-laws. Some people have amazing in-laws, but but that wasn't my wife's experience. I love my mom, rest in peace there in heaven. She was really a good woman, but in actuality, she still was toxic just because of different baggage and different things she had in her own life, which also affected my life. And so, but that's what we're talking about in being toxic. Toxic is just causing that tension, that negativity, and those things and those challenges in your relationship when really it's not between you and your wife or you and your husband. It's because of the outside toxicity that comes into your relationship.
Yeah, that's so true. And then you also, want to make sure that, as you're setting your boundaries and how I said, they may get angry, you have to know that your expectations of what you had envisioned, your life looking like with your parents and with your new family, your wife and kids, it may be different. You have to realize if you're in a situation where there's toxicity, it's gonna look different. It's like because with Martez, I know like he always envisioned on having his mom live with us.
So true.
It was different things.
And that was bad by itself. Well, not necessarily.
No,
that
not
was
necessarily.
Really good. Yeah, that was true.
Because people have mother-in-law suites and stuff like that.
You're right. That was
That's
my
not,
dream.
honestly, and I can't say it was something that I wouldn't have been against.
But what
that
I'm saying, what they don't know is, see, for you just joining us, when we got married a year later, my mom moved in with me. So that's what I was saying.
Yeah, that was a part of that. When I said that first step where you got to make sure you cut the umbilical cord, that was where that umbilical cord was.
Because I was missing my mama, and then mama said, you know what, son? I'm going to transfer up to where you are stationed, and guess what? It's going to be me and you again, me and my baby boy.
And every time I was the last one to find out. I didn't know till it happened. But
so that's what I was saying. You know what I'm saying? When you talking about moving in, I'm like, that's at the later stage. Or unless, of course, there's something going on physically. But you've already had that conversation. So that's why I say, no, we actually grew through this.
Yeah, we really did. We've been through some very
we've been through our
painful growing pains.
That's for real. That was like that post I did today.
Yeah.
About holding hands through the good times, the bad times, to get to the amazing times.
Yes, because we have been through that. So you have to realize sometimes your expectations may change.
Oh, definitely.
And then
you have to be real, and you have to be realistic with those expectations. And again, this is like the last stage. Because really what you really are hoping for, and that's why I say we're talking about getting help, you're really wanting to know how to approach the situation, depending on how it swings, how to even deal with those different swings to hopefully get them to understand this is just out of love. This is just out of me wanting to make sure my wife feels comfortable, my husband feels comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You will hope that once you see it in the beginning and you set those boundaries and, you communicate that to your parents that, everything will be good. But if not, you do want to make sure that you get professional help, like we've already said, because sometimes it can go as far as, then they stop speaking to you.
Of course,
we dealt with that with my grandmother. She didn't like what we had to say. So we were some years with, she didn't speak.
Don't call me. Don't talk to me.
And so my kids, she wasn't in my kids' lives for some years, but once we were able to heal and forgive and move forward, then she came back into their lives. So that's it. You have to be willing to take those stands when you know that you have toxic, in-laws, because it's all about us. We're a team. We have to stand together. So you want to make sure that you do that. And
no, you do it like me now. Too bad your daughter didn't see that. She's gonna say, "Oh Lord, Dad and Mama couldn't read."
And so then I want to move into this, that if you are personally in this situation and you're dealing with the challenges.
Oh man, we forgot. Go ahead. Though.
What you want to say?
What about the spiritual piece?
Oh yeah, we about to get into that.
For real? Okay.
We about to get into the spiritual piece. Where I mean, I don't know.
What I mean is about when you're dealing with somebody that may be toxic and they start praying.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's not what I was talking about. Yeah, but go ahead.
So no, because what I'm just saying is I mean, that. Because I'm just saying a lot of times, again, when you're dealing with this toxicity, and then you deal with people who are spiritually, you want to be careful because this is what we dealt with. My mom was the person who really helped to instill my faith in God and my belief and all of these things around my faith in God. And so then, my mom could be praying and then be saying something like, is God or this is from prayer. And I'm like, I had to go. That was one of the things that was kind of confusing me because it's almost like, well, what are you saying? My wife doesn't fit here or she's messing up what God's plan is for our family. I mean, it could get real confusion. So that's what I'm just saying. At the same time, you want to understand spiritual principles and what is not. And God is about marriage.
Yeah.
God is not about any type of thing destroying or breaking up the marriage or breaking up that bond. And so that's what I would just say to anybody who may be like, yeah, I was talking, because if you was like me and then the people that are really having this toxicity, they are also full of toxicity, but they're also very spiritual with a strong prayer life. Yeah. So then now, what do you start doing when it starts bleeding over into this has something to do with your faith? This has something to do. Remember what God always told us. No, I'm just telling y'all now. We can do some real talk because a lot of people get stuck in that space.
And that goes to messing up your own spiritual life.
Yes.
Because honestly, that's a whole segment that I actually didn't add to this, because for me personally, I went through that, and then it's like from dealing with that, I'm questioning my faith and this and that. It was a lot of things. So but we're not talking about that.
We need to do a show about how spiritual principles can because people can get messed up. I mean, because I was we went through that because I just couldn't understand, because you could be saying to yourself, no, my mom or my dad can't be toxic like this because of the fact how much they pray, how much they worship, how much they read. And so then you like, well, those two things can't go together. No, you can still be a good giver, a good community person, a good person on the job, but you can still be toxic towards that person's spouse.
No, that's real. That's real. Like you said, that's a whole different situation. But I do want to just say, if you are dealing with some of these challenges in your relationship, you do want to make sure that you shift your focus off of, because a lot of times when you're in it, it's like, okay, well, I'm in it. I don't see no change right now. What can I do?
I think we may be talking about this next week. I can see you really rushing, you know what I'm saying? But this stuff is really good in case somebody's dealing with it. But Woodrina's like, I gotta stay on the time. But what I'm saying is nothing tells us, oh, we can't have part 2.
That's true.
Wow, we can have part 2. Wow.
That's true. We can.
Yeah, because you ain't just got to get it all in. This is a lot of good stuff. And just think about where we were, so like I tell everybody, this episode may not have been an episode that you were personally dealing with. You could actually have amazing in-laws and like, oh, Lord, I'm glad I ain't go through that. Woo, I'm glad I ain't go through that. But I promise you, there's somebody that that you can say, you know what? We heard a good podcast with Coach Martez and Woodrina, however you want to say it, and just say, you know what? I think you should listen to it. They was really just kind of encouraging about what some of the things you deal with and some of the things you face. And so that's why I just didn't want to rush, because this is some good stuff that people really need to hear, really need to understand, because what this does is it can stop a divorce. See, that's what we understand. We understand that what we do for a living is really save families and restore love in marriage, and then for the premarital couples, build them a strong love foundation. So that's the reason why I just didn't want to rush. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, no, all we got to do is just realize, you know what? We're going to be coming right back here next week, talking about toxic in-laws part 2. Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. Because I don't want you having to rush. Because you know what I'm saying. You done got all this information that's together. And we just and it's like, nah, we don't have to do that.
Okay. All right.
Actually, Jacob told me he don't want us rushing like that. That's the producer on the other end, guys. But he was like, yeah, Martez, tell Woodrina to slow down. She doesn't have to rush.
So we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to just continue this discussion, wrap it up for today.
Exactly.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Let's go. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to the Coach Martez and Woodrina Layton show, Understanding Love. actuality.
Actuality. Was you supposed to be saying accepting truth?
Accepting truth. Like actuality.
And changing your perspective. So before, we've been discussing this whole show, just how to protect in your marriage, from toxic in-laws, and how to deal with it if you're in that situation. And, we share personally, some of our challenges with it. And then if you're in that situation and, you're in the middle part and you haven't reached out for help yet, just make sure that you're taking care of yourself and really, shifting your focus off of what your spouse may be doing or what your in-laws may be doing, because you can't control them. You can only control yourself and your reaction. So you want to make sure that you're doing the things to keep yourself level, in a healthy place. So whether that's meditating, praying, walking, whatever you need to do to keep yourself good health.
And staying connected to your
support system. Yes, exactly. You want to make sure that you're doing that so that the challenges you're facing won't just overtake you. And so until your spouse is willing to get help, or either you could just get help on your own, just on learning how you can navigate through it.
And then remember too, we're talking about toxic in-laws, but just remember, they themselves are not toxic. It's the baggage that they bring, or it's some of the things that's in them. Because I know when you talked about shifting your focus, it's very important to remember, we're just really hoping that they come to a level of understanding and compassion. Because that's all you're really looking for. Anybody, when they marry somebody, you're just wanting that family to love, understand, and really want to connect with you. I mean, that's what everybody would want in a marriage. Love, understanding, and acceptance. And so if anybody is toxic, and once because a lot of times, like we said, that person can be toxic, but may not be aware of the toxicity that they bring. But once you bring them aware in a like in a friendly space, and just like an open, transparent, just trying to do it with grace to help them to come into that knowledge, you just kind of want to remember that that's not actually the person. It's just, what they were dealing with. Because that helps you not to just be like, I just want to shut the door to them, because
that takes a mature place too. It takes a while to get through that, especially when you've been hurt. It takes a while for someone to get to that place, but just work on yourself and just managing yourself and making sure you're able to stay in a healthy place yourself, and just know your rights, because you have a right to be treated, with respect. So, and basically you have to know that and assertively communicate your feelings and expectations to your spouse. And then also, know what you will and will not accept, and how long you are willing to deal with the challenges that you may be experiencing, with your in-laws. So you just have to know yourself and know what you would take. Because for me personally, I know, I dealt with it for a while, but once I got to it, and the way I dealt with it was just really through prayer, and just really just praying, and just always hoping for change, just hoping, for it to change. And it took some years, but eventually it did. And, once my husband's eyes were opened, and he understood like what was happening, I made the decision. Once that happened, then I made the decision to forgive and move forward, because I realized that, like I said, that's a mature place. I realized that it was her baggage. It was, it's not like, so I didn't, that's why I no longer took it personally. It's like, okay, this is just how she is. That's her baggage. But I knew he had my back and he was standing with me. So I was able to just still live with it and deal with it.
And that's one of those things that's very important when we talk about toxic in-laws, and we talk about moving forward, getting into that place of forgiveness. And that is a place of maturity, and really just understanding. Because honestly, I can tell you, anybody who brings toxicity into your relationship, they're really just not in a good place themselves.
That's true.
That's really what that is. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what you have to remember. If they are bringing toxicity into my relationship, they are really wanting my relationship to be filled with toxic like they are. You know what I'm saying? It's like they say, hurt people hurt people. Well, people who are toxic, they want to spread that toxicity. And if you realize you like, nah, I don't want that. Then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, you don't belong, you this and that and that. But it's like, they're really just really hurting themselves.
Yeah. And you just have to just set those clear boundaries, because you once you realize what's going on, you have to still protect yourself.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I know this person is not going to change, but I'm going to communicate my expectations, and I'm going to set my clear boundaries, and that's the way that we're going to be able to move forward, in this. So,
and that's the way you'll do it as a couple.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, those expectations, those boundaries, it has to be agreement and unity between you and your spouse.
Exactly.
And then that same unity has to extend to your kids on what you agree with them, because this is real. A lot of people deal with, how do I deal with, that's their grandmama, but then grandmama is toxic. This is but again, that's why we was just trying to give it some tips and making sure you and your spouse stay in unity, stay in agreement. And there is no exceptions for that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we want to just remind you, if you're just tuning in, to just go back and listen, because, we
definitely understand. We've been there.
If you're not in that situation, then praise God.
Thank God that ain't you, and just be happy. Be like, boy, I love my mother-in-law. Oh, I love my father-in-law. Because I got a lot of clients. We've had a lot of clients over the years, but that's theirs, and that you love.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when you have those, when you have a lot that's not, and how to navigate that.
Exactly.
This is very important, because you can really navigate when you get knowledge, perspective, understanding on how to approach it.
That is so true. And so we want to make sure we remind everybody about the 5th annual Married for Life Walk.
Let's go.
Right here in Atlanta, Georgia, April 22nd and 23rd. The 22nd, we're going to have like couples conversation.
Love celebration.
We're going to come together, have some games, marriage enrichment,
couples
dancing.
Bowling.
Yeah, so we just gonna have some fun. Fun night with some marital enrichment.
You're gonna love it.
And then Saturday we're gonna come together and do our annual walk, where we're walking our 2 mile.
Some people just be like, oh wow, this is a whole event. It starts at 10 and ends at 1 o'clock. It's a full event.
Yes, that ends with the walk, the 2 mile walk, where we're holding hands and just reminding couples to never let go of the hand you're holding. Like you're gonna go through challenges. We all do. If you meet somebody and they haven't been through any challenges, they are lying.
You better watch
or either they only have been married a couple of years.
Because in the beginning.
But by the time year 7 comes, you done went through some stuff, but everybody has challenges, but we're going to overcome them, and we can overcome them as long as we remain committed to God and one another.
Absolutely.
So we just want to invite you to come out with other like-minded couples to just walk, stand, and celebrate,
marriage,
marriage and love.
Never giving up on each other. That's
real. Exactly. And like we said earlier, March is Women's History Month.
Yes.
And the theme this year is providing healing, promoting hope. Providing healing and promoting hope. And the theme not only honors the tireless work of caregivers and frontline workers during the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's also women of all backgrounds who have provided compassionate healing and hope for the betterment of patients, friends, and family, because we do have a lot of people who are caregivers.
Of course.
So, we just want to honor them this month.
Absolutely.
And, and we just want you all to remember that healthy marriages do not happen by chance. They happen by choice. So you have to be honest with yourself and be willing to be held accountable to the things that your partner may say to you without giving them back judgment or pushback, and make a commitment to accept change without conflict.
So again, thank you so much for listening to us here on the Coach Martez and Woodrina Layton show. Again, tune in next week, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Pacific time. We'll love to hear from you, reading comments and the things that are being sent in. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you here back next time. Same time.
All right.
Let's go.
Have a great week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Coach Martez and Woodrina Show on Transformation Talk Radio with certified professional life and marriage coach Martez Layton and licensed therapist Woodrina Layton. Understanding love, accepting truth, and changing perspective. Coach Martez and Woodrina Layton have been working with outbound couples to strengthen their relationships for the betterment of their lives for 20 years, and it is in their divine role in life to do so. For more information or to schedule an appointment with Coach Martez and Woodrina, go to dreambuilderscoaching.net. That is dreambuilderscoaching.net.